I'm delighted to welcome all of you and all of our viewers around the world to the second installation of our fall open house webinar series. In advance, also, I want to say a quick, in advance of tomorrow, actually, I want to say a quick happy Thanksgiving to all of our Canadian viewers. In our first webinar last Sunday, we answered the question, what is the Montserrat first year experience? We did that through a description of the Montserrat program from the director of Montserrat and through anecdotes from current Holy Cross students. Tonight's webinar will address how and when Holy Cross students declare their major. Our plan is to begin with a brief introduction to the basics of declaring a major, and then hear from Holy Cross students about their academic journey. Tonight, I'm joined by Professor Matt Eggemeier from the Religious Department, who is also currently serving as the Dean of the sophomore class, and then 4 current Holy Cross students. Liza Goodman, current Holy Cross junior, Sarah Billis, also a current Holy Cross junior, and representing the senior class, Brianna Cummings, and the Pride of McQuaid Jesuit in Rochester, New York, Aidan Ruppert. I also strongly encourage you to attendees to submit questions in the Q&A box, and we'll feed those questions to our panelists tonight. And also, I want to mention that we've seen a few poll questions. One already popped up. We'll have more poll questions as we go along. And last thing I'll mention, tonight's meeting is closed captioned, so closed caption button is available for you in the bottom of your screen. You can activate it by clicking on the CC button. All right, first, Professor Eggemeier, can you just give us a brief introduction to what it's like when you come in as a first-year student, what the expectations are, how you pick that first round of classes, and who's helping you through that process?
Definitely. Thank you, Drew. So at the outset, I would want to inform everyone that if you come as a first-year student to the College of the Holy Cross, you will have to enter undeclared. We have a policy in place in which you are not permitted to declare a major until February of your first year. So that's the earliest possible point at which you can declare a major. And we want all of our students to declare a major by the end of their sophomore year. And there's a rationale behind that policy. We really want students to come in with an open mind and to explore the curriculum. I'm sure the student panelists will attest to this. I think what often happens is that students come in thinking they might want to major in this or that discipline, and they end up taking courses to fulfill what we call common area requirements, and I'll get to those momentarily. And they find that they fall in love with those disciplines. They fall in love with that particular area of study, and they end up declaring that as a major. And so what we want you to do really during your first year is explore the curriculum. If you think you want to be an economics major, you can certainly take an economics course in the fall semester, but you'll have to take 3 other courses. And that gives you a kind of broader engagement and kind of experience of all the disciplines that are offered at Holy Cross. When I talk to students about the curriculum at Holy Cross, I always say that there are kind of 3 streams of courses that you end up taking. To graduate from Holy Cross, you have to take 32 courses. That's 4 courses a semester for 8 semesters or 4 years. The first stream of courses are what we refer to as the common area requirements. Other institutions will talk about the core curriculum. Basically, it's the liberal arts element of your education in which you have to take 12 courses in a variety of different areas. So for instance, you have to take 2 courses in what we call the social sciences. What are the social sciences? That would be political science, sociology, anthropology, economics. You have to take a course in studies in religion, a course in historical studies, 1 course in the natural sciences. So there are 12 of those, and that really gives you an overview of all the riches that we have to offer at the College of the Holy Cross. The second stream of courses would be the courses in your major. Most majors require 10 courses. Some majors require a few more. And again, you can declare that in February of your first year. And some students declare 1 major and stick to that. Other students do a double major or a major and minor. There are many kind of configurations and possibilities for you. The third stream of courses would be electives, right? So you have common area requirements, majors, and then electives. And depending on what you do, if you double major, you won't have as many electives. If you just a single major, you'll have a great deal of electives. I think the way in which we structured the curriculum is really good for students who might be coming in undeclared or undecided, right, about what they actually want to pursue. because you're going to be engaging the breadth of what we offer at the college. So in addition to the curriculum, I think we have a really unique and interesting advising structure at Holy Cross that helps students discern what courses they want to take and what they potentially want to major in. We have what we call a class dean. I'm a class dean for the class of 2023 currently. And a class dean follows a particular class year during their 4 years at the college. And so I oversee around 750 students at this point. I meet with them regularly. I advise them about what courses to take, about the possibilities for majors, about internship opportunities, all sorts of things. So I'm kind of the big picture person, and I meet with students every day of the week regularly and talk about everything under the sun. In addition to the class dean, you will also have a first year advisor if you come to Holy Cross. We have a really cool first year advising program in which faculty and staff are trained to be first year advisors. They have a relatively limited number of advisees. They have 12 advisees each, and they're trained to be attuned to the particular issues and challenges that first year students encounter. And so you would go to your advisor to talk about course enrollments. You would go to your advisor if you ran into particular difficulties in a class, and they would help you problem solve those things. They're the initial person you go to, and then you can always reach out to the class dean if the issue can't be resolved by your advisor. And I would say finally, and in conclusion, Holy Cross is a special place in which we have small class sizes, in which our professors get to know our students, not just as kind of numbers or blank faces in a classroom, but as individuals. And so a lot of the advising that I actually do is advising students in my classes. They'll come in for a class issue, want to discuss something. I teach religious studies in the courses that I'm teaching. Then I'll inevitably ask them questions like, what are you taking this semester? What are you majoring in? What are you thinking of majoring in? And so I think the students on this panel can attest to this, that oftentimes you have your formal advisor, but then you have several informal advisors as well, the professors that you cultivate relationships with. So I think that the curriculum and the advising structure are really unique to the college, and I think they're really helpful in enabling students to discern what they might want to major in during their time at Holy Cross.
All right, so Brianna and Aidan, as the juniors on our panel, I want to ask you both to take a trip down memory lane back to the glory years of your senior year in high school. You're finishing up your high school career. You're about to come to Holy Cross. Can you sort of take us back, and do you remember what you thought you wanted to study when you were in college, and what that was like when you came to Holy Cross that first semester? How did you pick your classes, and how did my final question, how did your expectations for what college was going to be like in the classroom, how did that meet with the reality during that first semester? Let me start with you, Brianna.
Yeah, my senior year of high school thought I was going to come in and be a bio major. I had applied everywhere I applied with the intention of being a bio major, becoming a doctor, not really doing anything other than STEM. Which is why I was really excited to come to Holy Cross and have to go through the common area requirements and take classes that were outside of that typical medical school curriculum. And then first semester, my first year, I took a bio class. I liked it a lot, but I also took a math class, and I realized that that was kind of where my heart was. So I ended up declaring the math major at the end of my first semester, my first year, and I stayed fulfilling pre-med requirements. And then last fall, as a sophomore, I took an intro sociology course, and my Montserrat class actually was also in the sociology department. And I just had like the best experiences with professors and with that content. So I ended up declaring a second major. So now I'm a math and sociology double major, and I have a Latin American studies concentration. But I kept with the STEM, and we're still pursuing the pre-med requirements, but having the opportunity to take classes that were so different than what I originally thought I wanted to take opened up my eyes to the fact that, like, at a liberal arts institution, you can do all of that and like experience everything kind of all at the same time in different ways and explore those different paths that I had no idea that I was going to like as much as I do now when I was a senior in high school.
Thanks, Brianna. And Aidan, I want to hear your reflections as well, but super quick question for Professor Eggemeier. Can you talk about being a double major? Do you get two different advisors in both of those programs? And what's the process like for being a double major?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you actually declare a major in February, March, April, June of your first year, you will be reassigned an advisor and get a new advisor. If you remain undeclared, you'll probably stay with your first year advisor for the second year, which is great because you've already cultivated that relationship. In terms of the double major, if you declare two majors, you get a advisor from each of those disciplines. A lot of students end up declaring double majors, as Brianna has. You've got to kind of do the math, work through it, and make sure that it's feasible, depending on when you end up declaring it. But it's very, very much something that many of our students do, and it's really cool because you get the support of two faculty advisors who really know the ins and outs of each discipline.
Okay, Aidan, take us back to the just beginning your Holy Cross career during your first year. What did you think you wanted to study, and how did that meet with the reality during your first and second semesters?
Well, you know, Drew, it's actually really interesting. Brianna mentions the intro level sociology course, as I too was swayed by this Sociology 101 course that ultimately led to me declaring the sociology major. But going back to where I was 2 years ago, or just over 2 years ago, as a high school senior, I was taking my first class in psychology, which is currently my other major. So in taking psychology, I just fell in love with the field, and I knew that it was something I would want to pursue wherever I ended up in college. And so I was granted advanced placement in the sociology department at Holy Cross. So I, from the onset, had just the opportunity to start taking 200 level courses. My Montserrat seminar was also a psychology course. So really just to dive both feet into psychology and reaffirm my interest in that. And so I think it really speaks to the fact that Holy Cross, although students do not come in with a declared major, that's certainly not to say that anybody at the college is going to discourage you from pursuing what you feel passionate about. I knew that psychology was for me, and that's still the case. It just happened to be that Holy Cross also allowed me to broaden my horizons and fall in love with this related but distinct field of sociology. So it's sort of a tale of two ends for me. I knew what I wanted to do, but I learned something else about myself also.
Okay, and to the senior members of our panel, Sarah and Liza, if you can remember back to that process of those first couple semesters, what was it like for you guys to decide which classes to take? How did you walk through that? I think that's a great unknown for a lot of high school students. How do you know which classes to take? And especially for that first semester and that second semester, as you're trying to balance requirements and also what you're interested in?
I can start. So going in, I also wanted to go to medical school and be a doctor, major in bio. So deciding what courses to take, I knew that my strong suits were not necessarily in the sciences. So I knew I wanted to take some bio courses, but then also start with some electives right off the bat. And actually my advisors, who I met with the week before starting classes freshman year, they helped me to decide how to even out my schedule. So I wasn't taking only STEM classes, and so that I was a little more at ease my first semester freshman year. And then in terms of continuing to decide what courses I was going to take, as my interests changed, both in my career and in my major, I ended up majoring in psychology and religious studies. So my two new advisors and also my close contacts with my professors, all of those mentors helped me to decide that I wasn't going to continue with my bio classes, and I was going to even out my schedule with psychology and religion courses. And then I did also still have room for other electives as well.
So I have a very unique case where I took basically English and performing classes my first semester freshman year. I really knew that I wanted to be a theater major, and I had a really big inkling that I wanted to double major in English as well. So I went in choosing to take a basic acting course in the intro English course, which that year had changed to a poetry and poetics class. So I took those two classes, and then I also took a world music class, which got rid of my cross-cultural requirement that I had to take. And then I also took my Montserrat, which just happened to be a literature and performing class that I was randomly put in. But it was like a very good schedule for me. I really loved it. It really solidified my identity as a performer and wanting to continue my major in theater. But what happened was I didn't like my English course as much as I thought. I loved it. I had a great professor, but poetry just wasn't my thing. So I took a semester off from taking an English course and got some other requirements out of the way that I had to take. And then I revisited the idea of taking English in my sophomore year. But then I realized that the second semester of my freshman year, I really enjoyed not having an English class. So I spent a lot of time thinking, is this what I want to do? Like, I am an overperformer in a lot of ways, and I really wanted to double major. Like, I thought that was the right path for me. And I sat down with my professor from my first semester, and she and I discussed a lot about it. And she said, Liza, you don't have to take all the English classes in the world. You can take classes that you are interested in, such as more of the modern fiction classes that I really liked, instead of the like reading the Canterbury Tales and all of those types of English literature that I didn't really want to study. So she helped me discern that double majoring was probably not my path, and it did free up a lot of time for me to take other classes such as Intro to Anthropology, which then led me to deciding to concentrate in gender, sexuality, and women's studies. So that was my little journey my freshman year. So I don't double major, but I'm a major and a concentrator.
And I'm interested, sometimes I had a student ask me this question the other day, a high school student. I sort of mentioned Holy Cross students, meeting with their advisor. And it was the first time I'd been asked this question, but she said, well, where does that happen? So can you guys give me a visual, like when you meet with your advisor, where does that happen? How long is a meeting? What's it look like? What do you talk about? Like, can you, Brianna, can you paint me a little picture here?
Yeah, when particularly with my advisor in the math department, we typically meet in his office, which is in the science complex, but it's not like I go and the only thing we talk about is kind of what classes are you taking? How are you doing in them? What are you scheduling for the next semester? He happens to be researching or have done research in a field that I'm really, really interested in how kind of math and medicine come together. So he and I talk a lot about different conferences he's been to, and he actually has helped me get connected with some people to go to a couple conferences. They're virtually right now, but it's still a really cool opportunity. And something else I do is he has a lot of Play-Doh in his office. To help with doing problems in multivariable calculus. But I also kind of like when we're talking, like we're just kind of like sculpting with the Play-Doh. And it's really cool to have those kinds of conversations with a professor, with someone who is your advisor, because it really makes you feel like they're just another person that you're there to talk to, that they're just there to help you. And it eases a lot of the stress I think that I had my first year about like, oh no, I don't know what to tell my advisor. I don't know. I don't want to say something wrong. I don't want to tell them that I don't want to take this course. Something that has been really, really helpful is that with both of my advisors and all of my professors, really, they want to know what you're interested in. So like when we're talking and I'm sort of talking about things that are particularly piquing my interest in classes, they're really good about directing you towards different courses and electives within your major, different other common area courses I know one of my professors in the spring actually told me to take Professor Eggemeier's class that I took over this summer. And it's just really nice that your advisors get to know you on such a personal level so that your course schedule can really be tailored to what you want to learn and what you find interesting, kind of what Liza was saying also.
Aidan, how do you keep balance with all of your academic requirements for majors and common area requirements? Is this like, do you have a spreadsheet in your brain? Is this, do you have a Post-it on your desk? How does this all come together for your academic requirements?
It's interesting you ask that, Drew. If I'm being quite honest, I have all of the above. When enrollment rolls around, I tend to use the Post-it system and draw up scenarios for really getting in the classes that I want and then crossing them out if I don't think it's a viable option. But also I do have literal spreadsheets on my computer right now that I actually use to communicate with my academic advisors before enrollment, after enrollment, and sort of if I just need to check in on my progress within the majors. In addition, I think it's worth noting that there is some overlap that exists within majors. Psychology and sociology, for instance, each major requires 10 courses for the major. But that said, within these fields, there are statistics and research methods courses needed to complete the major. And so I fulfilled that requirement for both psychology and sociology within the psychology department. So if you happen to be somebody who is pursuing those fields, or I'm sure there are overlaps existent somewhere else along the lines of other majors, it's definitely something to keep an eye on and just read the fine print and make sure that you are making the most of your 32 courses at Holy Cross.
Okay, we're going to take a chance here to launch our second poll question of the night. Popping up on your screen right now. And while we do that, Professor Eggemeier, I wonder if you could just take 1 second and just talk about the timeline, the earliest a student could declare a major, the absolute last possible minute, and if double majoring affects that, if being pre-med or pre-business, if any of that affects the timeline of when a student is able to declare and then finally has to declare their major.
Yeah, so again, the earliest a student can declare is February of their first year, and the latest they can declare their first major is by the end of their sophomore year. And we want you to declare a major by the end of your sophomore year so that we're sure that you can actually complete one major, because that is a requirement for graduation. You have to hit the 12 common area requirements, and you have to have a major, and you have to have 32 courses completed. In terms of declaring a second double major, it can happen at any point if you have enough courses available to fulfill that major. So you could have like 9 sociology courses under your belt first semester senior year, and you're signing up for spring courses and you haven't declared a major yet. If you can complete that major, you can declare it at that point. So there's really no kind of restrictions on that, other than the fact that you can fulfill the requirements that are necessary for the major itself. And in terms, going back to the previous question, in terms of how you know what you need to fulfill, it seems kind of crazy when you hear us talk about it, but you also have access to what's called an unofficial transcript. Your advisor has access to the unofficial transcript, and it shows you quite clearly what you have completed in terms of the common area requirements and what you still need to complete, what you have completed in terms of the major and what you still need to complete. So you can see that yourself. You can also put together spreadsheets, but you can also consult with your class dean or with your advisor to figure out what you need to do to fulfill the requirements.
Great. Looks definitely by our panelists and by our polls that we have lots of students here who are interested in lots of different things. On that topic, Sarah, can you tell me about what it's like to take courses outside of your main academic area of focus, outside of the major? Is it your duty and responsibility and like going to work every day? Can joy be found outside of your major?
I love that question because that was actually my mission throughout the 4 years. It still is. to make sure that I'm majoring in stuff that makes me happy, but also that my whole Holy Cross experience is taking courses that will help me and also that make me happy. So I would say I definitely talked a lot with my advisors, all three of them, my freshman year advisor and then my 2 different major advisors, and then the different professors that I felt really close with. I was like, just be honest with them. Tell them what you're unsure about. Tell them what you are sure about. Tell them your career aspirations. Tell them, I don't know, your life aspirations, and they'll help you pick courses that that bring all of those things together. I mean, the great thing about Holy Cross and the fact that it's a liberal arts school is that a lot of the courses, they're cross-cultural, or they combine different subjects, and the professors look for you to draw those connections. So if you have multiple interests, that's great. Tell your advisors or tell your professors, and they will help you look through the course lists, well ahead of time, well before you have to enroll, so that you can make sure that you're getting all of your needs met.
Liza, I think sometimes high school students worry about taking classes outside of their major and whether they're going to have to be required to do it. And if they do, how many do they have to suffer through? Like Sarah, same question. Have you been able to find joy outside of your academic major?
Yes. I specifically, like, this is a specific experience for myself. I am not a STEM person in any sense of the word, and I was terrified of having to take a science course in college. I just really was. I was nervous that I wouldn't have a really good rapport with whatever professor I took from, just because the theater department at Holy Cross is so small that it's very scary to like go out of that cocoon and meet new professors. But I took a science class called the Biology of Cancer, which was for non-bio and science majors. And it was the best course I've ever taken at Holy Cross, and probably the best professor I've ever had. And I had so much fun in that course, and I was able to like act out ways that cells react when it comes to cancer and things like using our bodies. It was just everything about that class was a lot of fun, and he made it fun, and he realized that none of us were science people, and he took that and he made us understand it. Even though we do not have those types of brains, it makes me like, I joke that I'm an oncologist now because I know I learned so much from that class, and it was just the best experience I've ever had from a science class.
If I could clarify something real quick, Drew. So we do have like a common area requirement in the natural sciences, and then a common area requirement in either mathematics or the natural sciences. That does not mean you need to take calculus or you need to take an upper level course for bio majors. There are courses in the natural sciences and mathematics that are accessible and available to people like Liza and myself who are not specialists in the STEM area. We have common areas in historical studies, not in the history department. And so you could fulfill the common area requirement in historical studies in the religious studies department, potentially in the English department. There are a variety of disciplines where you can fulfill these common area requirements.
So quick questions for Brianna and Aidan. I know you come off as confident and articulate and composed, and maybe our attendees think everything comes easily to you in the classroom. But can you remember or recall a course that you've had in your Holy Cross career where maybe the material didn't come easily to you? And what was it like to work with the professor to find success in that class? Maybe let me start with you, Aidan.
Sure, Drew. So last semester, I took a course in psychology. It was the research methods course, and I did pretty well in the course, and I'm happy with everything I learned in there. But the central aspect to that particular course was completing a group research study as though you were actual psychologists conducting a study. And so it was completely student-driven and student-oriented in terms of gathering your sample and putting together your methods. And it was something that was frankly quite imposing for me at the time as a psychology student. I had never really put together my own experiment or anything like that, so to speak. And so I think many of you heard last week from Professor Ludden, the director of Montserrat, who's in the psychology department, and she worked so extensively with my group during that. She was the professor of the course, and we had so many Zoom sessions, even once we did go virtual, just about refining our methods and making sure we were applying everything we were learning in the course to our group project. And I think we put together a really coherent and well-produced research project in the end. And so really it was her work as a professor and just consulting with my group as well as other groups in the class that really set us up for success. And so it was really reassuring to me as someone who had never done any project even remotely like that. So it was a really great experience.
How about you, Brianna? Ever run into a class like this where the material did not come easily to you?
Yeah, my class, similarly to Aidan, was also last semester. It was the first in the organic chemistry sequence. And I am definitely a self-proclaimed STEM person. Those STEM courses have typically come not easily, but more naturally to me than some other courses that I've taken until I got to organic chemistry. It's not as computational, I think, as a lot of the other science courses that I'd taken, and that's kind of one of my strong suits. So it was a big adjustment for sure at the beginning of the semester. But Professor Isaacs was my orgo professor, and I spent probably every day after class in his office asking him questions and kind of going through problems. But I think that the best thing that helped me the most was that he never made me feel discouraged about the material. He was always kind of helping me see the ways that it was good to be working that hard for a course, and it was good to be putting in that extra time. And he was always there as a resource, even when we went online. But the fact that I could tell that he had confidence in me made me have more confidence in myself in completing the course, even though it was definitely a challenge and it was a completely new way of approaching classes. He helped me with like new study methods and kind of making sure that I could see the big picture as opposed to just taking it exam by exam to get through, and making sure that I was still enjoying what I was doing too.
Great question to you, Professor Eggemeier. First semester, that first year, if a student has a particular academic interest, economics, biology, religious studies, psychology, can they go ahead and take a course in that academic area first semester to find out if that will be their chosen path, and how do they know which course to take?
Absolutely, Drew. Actually, I would encourage students, if they have an inclination in a certain direction, to go ahead and dip their toes in, explore it, test it out, and see if it clicks for them. So if you come to the college during the summer, you will put down, I think it's 6 Montserrat seminars that are possibilities that you're interested in. And then you'll also list 6 courses that you would like to take during your first year. And then you'll prioritize a first choice and a second choice. And sometime in July, you'll be placed in a Montserrat seminar and either your first choice or your second choice. The majority of students get their first choice. So if you're really kind of eager to jump in and try out economics, you can put Econ 110, Principles of Economics. It's the introductory course as your first choice. In all likelihood, you'll get in. During summer gateways, which is our kind of summer advising and introductory sessions, you'll have the opportunity to consult with faculty in an advising session. If you aren't able to attend summer gateways, we can set up phone calls to advise you about what kind of courses would be appropriate if you're interested in particular areas. So I would strongly encourage students to explore a particular area of interest while remaining open to the other courses that they're going to have the capacity to take.
Sarah, I have a question for you. What advice would you give to a first-year student approaching that first round of courses that they're about to sign up for? Maybe learning from your experience and friends of yours, what advice would you give to a first-year student about picking their first round of course?
Yeah, I would say definitely sign up for things that are in your area of interest. Not necessarily what you think you want to major in, but just look through all of the courses, even if they're not in that necessary, even if they're not in that bio major or in that psych major, do, branch out, talk to your advisor, talk to your friends that you meet during gateways, talk to different professors, take advantage of all of the resources. It's a liberal arts school, and you don't get this anywhere else where you get the opportunity to choose. Because you will have the opportunity to take classes in your major later on. That will be a requirement. But you won't always have the room to take the classes you're actually interested in outside of your major. And also, if you're wanting to study abroad as well, it's a good time to start planning that your first semester. That's a piece of advice I would give. I wanted to study abroad, but I didn't start planning based on my interests. I started planning based on what I thought I needed to take. And so I didn't get to study abroad. So I would recommend do things based on your interests, take classes based on your interests, declare a major that you actually want, and don't be afraid to change your mind either. I changed my major 4 times before I actually decided on a double major in psychology and religious studies, and it is doable. I mean, if you put in the work and if you're passionate about it, you will be able to take the classes that you want.
Liza, same question to you. What advice would you give to a first-year student as they're thinking about the courses they're going to sign up based on what they think they want to study in high school and based on what other people are telling them? Do you have advice you would give?
Yeah, I think Sarah did a lovely job, and I echo everything she says. Specifically, when I look back on my first year, I think that's something that I would say is maybe push yourself when it comes to your Montserrat. You don't have a lot of choice when it comes to what you actually get placed in. You do have 6 choices, but then they place you in one of those 6. So the one that you end up in, you don't have any control over. So I had a Montserrat that covered literature and performing arts, and I took 2 other classes that also covered literature and performance. And I always sort of regretted that I didn't push my boundaries a little bit more when it came to my Montserrat, because there were so many interesting classes, but I was just I want to stick in this little bubble of what I know. And I did end up in that class, and I loved it, and I learned so much from my professor, and it helped me as a person as well. But I would just say push your boundaries a little bit when it comes to your Montserrat, because the Montserrat is supposed to be fun, and you're going to love it no matter what, and you're taking it for a whole year. So yes, be interested in the material, but also who knows, maybe something will spark your interest in that leads you down a whole different path as well.
Professor Eggemeier, right now, high school students around the country, particularly high school seniors, are being peppered with questions from the adults in their life. Where do you want to go to college? What do you want to study when you go to college? And what do you want to do after you graduate from college? And so many high school students feel like they have to know the answers to those questions. Can you talk about a major and what that means with relation to what your profession might be after graduation?
Yes, that's a great question. I think one of the most important things that I want to convey to students again and again is that choosing a major is not choosing a profession, right? Choosing a major is finding something that you're passionate about, that you're fascinated by, and that clicks in some way, shape, or form. I'm passionate about physics. It does not click for me, right? And so you got to find where the intersection between what you're interested in and what you're good at comes together. But I think there are so many students who come to the college who say, I want to go into business, therefore I have to be an economics or accounting major. And that's just simply not true. What you need to do is perform really well in the major that you choose. So I see students eking out a 2.0 in economics because they think they have to do that to go into business. They're getting A's in history courses. If they would have majored in history, their GPA would have been much higher. They would have been much happier. And you can do internships in the summer. You can explore a variety of different networking opportunities to dip your toes into business and to set yourself up to go into business after you graduate. So one of the big things that I always want to say is that a major is not a profession, and you should really follow what you're passionate about.
A great end note for us tonight. I want to say an enormous thank you to all of our panelists for your participation tonight, for your wisdom, for your advice, and for your reflections. And also to all of our attendees, thanks for your participation. I hope for those of you for whom this is a holiday weekend, that you enjoy your weekend. Please check out our website. The Montserrat webinar that we did last week is archived there. If you missed any portion of tonight's webinar, that should be up on our website in a few days. And you can see the schedule for our upcoming webinars. Thanks again for your attendance tonight. Stay in touch and let us know if there's any way we can help. Good night.